can be also chemical processes, including biological processes of formulation. So manufacturing is quite key for wealth creation and economic development for a country, as I have just said. And countries that really don't manufacture really cannot really move very far. But where we in the country, as in regards to manufacturing, we are going to look at that. Let me just mention about the elements of manufacturing. We have what we call input elements, process elements, and they are also outputs. Now, the inputs include materials, could be semi-processed or processed materials or raw materials. Another major input is energy, because to convert anything is you need energy. There's also capital, could be human or money, and so on. Then the process, that is the production. You may require machineries to do that, manpower, and a lot of planning, forecasting, quality control, and so on, if you are to be competitive. Then the outputs are actually the finished goods that are sellable. They could also be semi-finished or just value-added products. And the key attributes in all this, one is functionality. So whatever it is that you manufacture must function as expected, or at least to some level of satisfactory level. And the quality must also be as per the requirements, maybe by the user. Then costs must be affordable. So these are items, these are issues that manufacturers have always got to play around with, contend with, try to ensure that whatever they manufacture is acceptable to the users in terms of functionality, quality, and cost. And when you talk of quality, maybe is a study. We are talking of strength, maybe lifespan, also even just simply the looks, how something looks. We're talking of aesthetics and so on. Okay. So we are also talking of sustainability. It's key that when you are undertaking manufacturing activity, that it is also sustainable. And there are actually three elements. You're talking of the socio, economic, and environmental sustainability. So with the social sustainability, you're talking of empowerment, of many inclusion, and also matters governance. When then you must have economic growth. The systems must be efficient and stable. When it comes to environmental sustainability, we are utilizing energy, we are utilizing natural resources, which may be exhaustible. And we must continue manufacturing and ensuring that even future generations will continue to do that. Then we don't affect the environment also. So we work towards zero emissions. Just the other time we were having a conference, the COP26, and inherently, when you're doing manufacturing and utilizing energy anywhere, there are some emissions. The nitrogen oxides, the carbon dioxide, many, and even noise and so on. There's out of pollution and so on. But the goal in this case is just to reduce pollution as much as possible. And if you can get to zero, that would be the best. Then you can see that you are manufacturing sustainably, just for any other activities. So how is the manufacturing sector in Kenya? I have looked at how manufacturing has been performing in Kenya in the last couple of years, few years, jumped from 1994 all the way up to 2020. And here we compare the share of manufacturing or contribution of manufacturing to GDP in Kenya. We find that way back in 1994, manufacturing sector was contributing over 13% or 14% to GDP. But since then, it has continued generally to grow, to reduce gradually. It has been oscillating about 10%. 2019 it was 7.9, 2020 7.6, and this reduction has been gradual. So though we know that the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, had some effect on manufacturing, we can see that even before we are not performing very well. According to Vision 2030, by 2022, it was envisaged that manufacturing would be contributing about 15%. So we are just barely half of that. But you can also say that during the time of the COVID, the most affected industries sector would have been the manufacturing sector, because there was a lockdown in many places, and manufacturing actually could not happen, majorly could not happen at home. So many industries closed. But having said that, we also know that the other sectors that closed, but there are some still that survived, and also they survived and also grew even within that time of the pandemic. So I would say that there's been a general decline over the years. And when we look at that, we can also compare other key sectors that contribute to GDP. This is in 2020. We saw that agriculture had the highest at 23%. It was followed by transport and storage. Then we had real estate, but still manufacturing. You can see that one is in the blue. It's quite low, and it should actually be at the level near to that of agriculture. And to say that manufacturing, though it's low, also most of the manufacturing in Kenya is on is agro-based manufacturing, so they should just be close together. So when you compare with others, for example, China normally is around 30%. Manufacturing contributes 30%, but in the year of pandemic, it was about 25%. So this share is low, and that is the situation as it is. We can also compare the various countries in 2020, how they performed in terms of manufacturing. And here we compare Kenya with the rest, with some other countries which were in the same league at some point, and others which are neighboring. The reason why I put China here is because it is actually the manufacturing hub for the world. And we see that in 2020, China contributed over 25%. The manufacturing in China contributed over 25% to its GDP. South Korea, which is a good country to compare with, because we know that at some point we're just together in terms of economy, it was at 25%. Similar to Malaysia. When you come to near home, Tanzania was at 9%, Uganda at 26%, India 13%. But you can see Kenya is still very, very low. And world over, manufacturing contributed to 15.9% to GDP. But having said that, we also note that when it comes to wage employment in Kenya, manufacturing contributes the highest. These are the three major contributors to wage employment: forestry and fisheries, agriculture, and manufacturing. So agriculture and manufacturing are about the same, but manufacturing has the highest. So it means that it has got a key role, or it has a great effect upon our society. How has it been? What actions have been taken over the years over the years to deal with the manufacturing. Just a bit. So we look at the historical perspectives on manufacturing and the strategies that have been there in promoting manufacturing in Kenya since independence. So when Kenya got independence in 1963, there was that the strategy of import substitution. This had already taken place and was already taking place even pre-independence, but it continued through independence, where the government was trying to replace imports with locally manufactured goods through protection of local manufacturers and also supporting them. And this led to contribution by right industries. We had what you call bubble garages and so on. Informal sector grew very much. And there was very good performance in textile and garments, food and beverage processing. Then after that, there was also establishment of the Industrial Survey Promotion Center in 1973. And there was the push towards the nationalization of manufacturing sector, promotion of joint ventures between domestic and foreign investors. Then in 1974, there was the Local Manufacturers or Compensation Act that was actually enacted to promote traditional exports. What was happening initially, the focus was on imports, but then there was seen a need to promote exports also. And this was through compensatory payments for local manufacturers for export of certain products. So you'd be compensated for that. Then in the 80s and the 90s, then there was the SAPs, the SAPs, the structural adjustment programs, and liberalization of markets. The liberalization was systematic. So one thing is there was the removal of price control. What had actually happened in the manufacturing sector, when the local manufacturers were being protected or being encouraged just to manufacture for local, the market was very low. Then the other challenge that was seen was that there was tendency to have monopoly. And then the industries were not really competitive. But when the price control was removed, liberalization was, there was liberalization of the markets. And much later, actually in 1995, Kenya joined the World Trade Organization. So everything became fully liberalized. And it had two effects. One, the competition became very stiff, and many companies actually closed because of importation of much cheaper goods because of efficiency. The costs were much lower in production elsewhere. And then the positive element is that that competition also helped to awaken the manufacturers in the local industry to produce much more in terms of, to focus on quality and produce much more. So it was good in one way and also bad on the other, because now the competition would mean that for those companies or manufacturers who could not keep up with the competition, they had no choice but to close. Other interventions were entered into the Preferential Trade Area in 1983, joining of the Common Market for East Africa, East and Southern Africa, that's COMESA, then establishment of Export Promotion Council, and also EPZs in 1996, and they are still running. 2001, there was that the AGOA initiative, that is, the developing countries, actually African countries, could export textiles and garments to America duty-free, and this was to go up to 2016, 2017. There are no quota restrictions. Then there were other policies that have been there and still continue. Now we are talking of the MTP4, but we are under the vision, the blueprint of the Vision 2030. There was the poverty reduction strategy. There was also the economic recovery for wealth creation. And the Vision 2030, part of it, according to the Vision 2030, we are to develop a diversified, robust, and competitive manufacturing sector. As I mentioned, it is envisaged that if we can maintain production, manufacturing at over 15% of the GDP, then we are able now to industrialize, become a industrialized country, among other things. So these are some of the interventions that the government has done. Many things have gone on, but it is within now other areas. Other countries are also having their own strategies. So what are some of the challenges that the manufacturing industries faced? These are well known to us, and we can they are quite a lot, but I just picked a few. One thing is we are having heavy reliance on foreign input, and actually this became very clear when we found that we are so much vulnerable when there was a lockdown of countries and there was no movement of goods for a couple of months, and even things that we took as for granted, that you want to manufacture something but you need some raw material from another country, then you had to stop, not because you cannot, but it is because the raw materials or the inputs are not available. So we rely so much on foreign inputs, some components which are specialized. Then we also have low productivity levels. The productivity in Kenya is a bit low. But one other element is unreliable and expensive energy. Actually, when you look at electricity costs in Kenya, they are a bit they are high, despite the fact that we are at 93, about 90%, over 90% of our electricity is generated through it's a green, we can say that it's green energy for industry, but the costs are quite high. You can look at that budget. We are looking at the costs per kilowatt hour in US dollars. And you find like countries that Kenya, the cost is at 0.16, about 17 shillings or over 17 shillings or 17 cents US dollars, 17 cents. And when you compare with others, our neighbors, like you look at Tanzania, is about 10 cents. Ethiopia actually is 2 cents. And Uganda is 15. Egypt, 6. And you can see now other countries that are really doing well in manufacturing. I'm not leaving China because China still becomes a benchmarking tool when it comes to manufacturing. It is at 9 cents. And let me mention here that manufacturing in some areas, energy cost is about 40%. So when you have it, you have energy being very high, very expensive, then it can mean that you can actually shut down because you're not able to run. And when you have competitors running at much lower levels, then productivity, profitability is high. And we have seen this in the recent past where some companies have actually closed and relocated either to Ethiopia or to Egypt. One such company, like the Central Grass Industries, is just closing doors, citing Egypt as a better place for business because of the low energy costs and so on. So this is a sad thing, and some interventions are actually necessary. It's not for us. but we must drive this policy. It's a well-known fact, and it has to be dealt with. Then there is also the high cost of credits. Our interest rates are very high. Then high mortality of startups and heavy competition from other countries. Of course, heavy competition is mainly because of the costs of production. We also have a poor maintenance culture, whereby most of the industry and research has shown that we always do what we call breakdown maintenance. So we allow our machineries just to run until they break down. That's the time we undertake intervention. But the world is at the condition-based monitoring, not even time-based. You say that after every 2 weeks or 1 month or say 1 year, or when a machine has run for this, you must then do some maintenance. The others that do the condition-based, so they keep on monitoring the condition all along. So when the condition is to make sure that it is running at the best condition, and that's the best way, you do condition monitoring, then you're able now to maintain high quality and productivity. But the culture in most of our industries is the culture of breakdown maintenance, which is not very cost effective, and we are doing something about it, even through training. So just sum it up, there are some policy interventions for growth in manufacturing. We are saying, and this is known to the Ministry of Industrialization, encourage manufacturing by reducing or removing VAT for exports, incentives for commercial exploitation of minerals. Actually, you have a lot of minerals in Kenya, and unfortunately, some of them are just exported when they are raw. And we are saying that this, even with the Ministry of Mining, that has been put in place, there's needed to focus on that. Iron ore, very, very critical for manufacturing industry, even for construction industry. Coal as a source of energy, though not green, but still can help to maybe bridge the gap. Copper and many others. Those ones can actually help in revamping our manufacturing sector. Then there is policy incentives for procurement of local manufactured goods. Yes, I think when we have the government purchasing from outside, when there is a possibility of encouraging locals actually to manufacture and purchase, that will be good. So, and the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative is a very, very good initiative. There must be incentives related to encourage the manufacturers, local manufacturers, like the government agencies, departments, and so on, to procure. And there is a move towards that. What I mentioned is like, for example, we have now private sectors who are even manufacturing machineries, even vehicles. Government can come in and actually say appraise orders for vehicles, so that now the private manufacturers can be encouraged and even grow. Then the other element is on training of SMEs. In actually, as I mentioned, quality is an issue. They need to continue being trained on maintenance and quality for competitiveness, so that they are able now to compete globally. And those are some of the interventions that we just propose. What are we doing in JKUAT? There are some practical interventions that we are undertaking. One thing, embracing non-conventional methods where possible. Laser-based manufacturing, taking laser-based manufacturing processes, which are much more accurate, faster, and also cost-effective. We are embracing also additive manufacturing. That is, normally when you're doing manufacturing, like producing of components, we do what we call subtractive manufacturing. But now what you're saying is we go to additive manufacturing, where you start building a component. The conventional methods are forming, for example. If you want to make a cup, you form it using mechanical means, or you mold, that is, you melt and put in a pattern, then you come up with it. Or you just cut, get a bulk and blank, and then cut off the materials to the shape that you want. But we are saying, yes, we can also adapt other methods which have proved to be quite flexible, and also you can be able to ensure quality very well, and you can use very many different types of materials, and that is what we are calling additive manufacturing, whereby you start with the material, then you build it. The way you build a house is the same way you build that component that you do, layer by layer. And these are some of the interventions that really can actually get into. At JKUAT, we are embracing this and even training on this. For example, electrical discharge machining, utilizing lasers, and so on. For examples of additive manufacturing, we have what we call selective laser stereolithography, laminated object manufacturing, and so on, and what's popularly known as 3D printing or fused deposition modeling, where you build components layer by layer, and you can make very complicated components, including things like impeller pumps and other components which would be very, very difficult to make using conventional means or forming processes. And this way, you're able to reach the market much faster and also ensure consistency in terms of quality. Other activities that we are having at JKUAT to enhance manufacturing, we have some projects. One is what we are calling SustainAM Project. This is a project that we are undertaking together with some other collaborators at the University of Freiburg, and we have Dr. Wamai being the PI. Then the other one is on manufacturing research chair, and we have a session on manufacturing research chair after this, and I would invite you also, for those who can, to attend. But I'll just mention a bit about these two. The first one is the SustainAM Project, and what we are trying to do is to investigate and the way you can integrate local bio-based residue materials for additive manufacturing in order to reduce wastage, plastic waste, and also support circular economy. We are working together with our partners, University of Freiburg in Germany, and there you can see some of the JKUAT staff who are actually in this project. And what we are looking at in this project are use of alternative materials for actually manufacturing. What we consider as waste, can it actually be used to manufacture sellable goods? Some of these are some. Actually, the variety is quite wide. We are looking at water hyacinth, banana stalks, sugar cane, bagasse, fruit peels, and so on. And with this, we actually have to dry, form powder, and then make them injectable, and you can actually build components. Here you have the sieve analysis for milled samples, and this we have at the School of Biosystems Engineering, and also in civil engineering. Other materials that are considered as waste, we have rice husks, coconut shells, cocoa peat, bean pods, and any other. There can be very wide varieties, and we are looking at all these, even including maize cobs, that can be used to manufacture items that can actually be now useful. And that is a project that we just started, and you have to get to that. Then the other one is the manufacturing research chair. For those who will join the breakout session on this, you'll be hearing more. But for the sake of those who are not with that, I just wanted to just to mention about what it is all about. We are to enhance quality and productivity for small and medium agro-based industries through mechanization and automation of processes for value addition. And we are actually focusing on coconut product. This is a research chair project that is hosted by JKUAT with many members within JKUAT. And also we have other institutions collaborating with us, universities, and also the other agencies. We have AFA, we have the NUTS and ELCOP Directorate, we have Moi University, Multimedia University, and KIRDI. So these are the people that we are working with. We are also working with SMEs, and being a coconut, dealing with coconut product, these SMEs are in the coastal areas, especially in Kwale and Kilifi counties. And what we are trying to do is to enhance their competitiveness through the value chain of coconut. We are looking at various elements, the food products, the fabrics and textiles, cosmetics and beauty products, also biomass and energy. And we are looking at how we can help them to improve their quality and productivity. With this, we are also developing machineries and tooling to assist in all this. We're also doing capacity building, training them so that they can be able to produce much, much faster at a more cost-effective way, and then they become competitive. This is a project that is funded by IDRC, and also, yeah, I can see Rehema's camera, so she's telling me to stop. I'm about to stop, just 1 minute. And these are some of the activities that we are undertaking. Meeting with the SMEs, training them at our Mombasa campus. Also doing some researches in those different areas that we are doing. You'll learn more about that when you go to the, for those who go to the breakout rooms. Developing machineries also, and which we are also piloting with them. When you develop, we go and pilot with the SMEs and so on. Different types of machineries for different products. So in conclusion, we are saying that you have a great potential for growth of manufacturing sector in Kenya, but there's also need for policy intervention to spur this growth, and universities and other research institutions have a key role to play in this. So asanteni sana, and sorry I've exceeded my time, but I hope it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof, for that presentation. There are comments on the chat which indicate that others have enjoyed it as much as I have. I wish we had more time. So I will take 2 questions just for the sake of time. The first question is from Rebecca Minor, who is asking, how can we as a country embrace solar energy in manufacturing to reduce energy costs and to reduce over-reliance on imports? So do I read the other questions? And
please.
Okay. Let me take another one from Nelson Mugambi, who is asking, what are the factors that have led to these variations of cost of energy in the selected countries, citing a case of like Kenya and Ethiopia? Maybe a final one from Dr. Mutua. How is the research chair in coconut doing to utilize coconut to produce cooking oil to tame the runaway costs of the commodity cooking oil? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll attempt to answer the questions. Thank you very much. That was from Rebecca Minor on solar energy. Yes, solar energy, once you have installed solar energy, you can actually utilize it. But at the moment, still, it may appear like when you go now, if you are talking of solar PV, it is still not the cheapest alternative at the moment. The conversion efficiency for solar is still very low, and there's a lot of research going on in that, because the conversion is about 17. I think the best would have been, I think 17% or something like that. Very, very low. The initial costs are quite are a bit high, but it is an alternative. But we still have much cheaper at the moment. We are talking at the moment, much cheaper energy than solar. And we're also harvesting solar. So we have, for areas where we are off grid, very far from the grid, solar energy is being utilized. But you find that in a certain area, this is based on insolation. In a certain area, you require still quite a large area in order to get adequate solar power if you are talking about solar PV. There's also move towards the solar thermal, which is also another alternative. And these are still being developed. yes, we shall soon get there. But there's also an argument whether actually solar energy is still green when you compare now, when you look at now the items that are actually used to make those items. But that's what discussion for another time. For now, we say yes, solar energy can actually be utilized in the manufacturing. The conversion process is the one that is still quite expensive, but it is still something that is good for development and looking at. The other one is for Mugambi, from Mugambi. I think you talked of a comparison of energies. What is making it maybe much more expensive? I think there are so many, there could be many reasons, but when you look at the taxes, it's not that the production cost for energy in Kenya is it's high. Is the taxation regimes are quite different. There are so many levies that are put on energy. Then some policies that I think it was last year, there was a great debate on these policies, where you're having like independent power producers who are also being paid for not producing. Somebody must also foot that. So those are some of the policies that really are not encouraging lowering of the energy costs. Because if a company was actually guaranteed to produce, I'm talking of this now, the fossil fuel, maybe the diesel generators and so on, which are expensive to produce, but they were guaranteed to produce energy on condition that if they don't, then there is some payment for that. So they either have to produce or they still continue. Whether they produce or they don't produce, they still have to be paid. So those are some of the things that I think cause the energy costs to go high in Kenya. But I think these are being addressed, and we hope that it can the electricity can actually go low, to be comparable with others which are in this country. In the surrounding countries such as Uganda, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. That we shall encourage many more investors in manufacturing to come in. Yeah, for Professor Mutua, he was talking about the cooking oil. Yes, I have discovered that boiled food is much more tastier than it used to be. But I get where you're coming from. Yes, yeah, cooking oil. We have what we call the VCO, virgin coconut oil, which is very good. And actually, outputs from coconut, the foods from coconut, really, are very high value and very good, that we encourage people to take. And even now, even within this exhibition, we have people who are exhibiting, and you can actually walk and go and even sample some of these. This is what Manufacturing Chair is trying to do, to encourage. We are trying to look at how can we help the SMEs produce much more oil within a very short time. And we have identified some whom we are helping, even coming up with machineries to help them to actually do that. We started with the cosmetics, but we still want to go this other direction, because what they use fermentation and other methods which are inherently low. Other industries which are doing pressing, they are actually producing copra oil, but actually cooking oil has become very expensive. And yes, we are looking at this and seeing not only just as food, even as for medical purposes. We have seen that coconut oil has got what we call the MCT8, which is very good even for curing people with epilepsy and so on. So it is we are looking at all that and seeing how we can actually help the SMEs to resolve this problem of escalating prices on cooking oil. Sorry, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. In the interest of time, I will ask you to kindly go through the chat. There are people who have so many interesting questions, which you can also engage with them. I will just mention a comment which has been given by Leonard Kitu, who is saying we need to embrace a multidisciplinary approach in manufacturing, where we invite all the stakeholders so that we inculcate a culture of acceptance of all the players. And that adequately summarizes what you have said with regard to sustainability and inclusivity in manufacturing, so that we can develop. So thank you very much for that presentation.
Okay.
Right now, we will move over to the next session. The next session will be a breakout session. We have 4 sessions which will be running. There's session 11, Agricultural Sciences and Technologies. Session 12, Agricultural Extension, Economics and Agribusiness. Session 13, Water, Energy, Environment and Climate Change. And session 14, which is Coconut Value Chain. And that is under the Research Manufacturing chair. The breakout sessions are open now. Feel free to select your session and join the room. If you need any assistance, our technical team is on hand. You can type on the chat so that they can send you to the room where you would like to go.